Stories stir the soul,
Stories reveal.
and stories heal.
In this podcast, we will give you an inside look at someone who's had a life-changing breakthrough.
Real people, real stories with real breakthroughs. As a health and wellness expert and coach, and Todd as a men's mentor,
We've seen firsthand what God can do when it comes to a breakthrough. So lean in, listen well. This could be your biggest breakthrough.
hello and welcome to this episode of Your Biggest Breakthrough. I'm Wendie Pett,
I'm Todd Isberner.
and we are always happy to be here with you. Hey, Todd.
Yes, Wendie.
Okay, you guys listening? Listen
What
to
are you going
this.
to do?
Okay, listen to this.
Did we talk about this before?
We're
Is this
gonna
part
talk
of the
about
show
this.
prep?
No, it's really not, but
Okay.
I have to bring it up because it's so hilarious.
Oh, because of the nature of the topic we're going to talk about today?
yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So
A little
Todd
embarrassing.
got caught in a predicament the other day, and it was unbelievable.
All right, just for the details. Man.
So I was in the sauna, and he was on the Carol Fit bike.
So the
And-
Carol is like a stationary bike.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden he's like yelling out for me, and I'm like, what is going on? And so
Actually,
I
if I
look
can back
over.
up, I wasn't yelling out for you. I was first yelling.
You
at
were kind of
pain.
freaking.
Yelling
Yeah.
at pain. Then I was yelling out for you.
So his shoelace came untied, and
Yeah.
it wrapped up so tight around the pedal that it was like
Oh.
cutting off the circulation from his
Oh.
foot. He could not get out of this predicament.
No, I'm
And
reaching
I
down
know,
there.
I felt
and
so
I-
bad, and yet I
I
laughed.
couldn't reach down with both hands. Had to only reach down with my left hand, which didn't allow me to do anything except try to alleviate some of the pain,
Right.
just throbbing pain, because the shoelace had wrapped around
It
my
was
foot
so tight.
and tightened it down. I mean, just like really anchored it.
Yeah. So I went over there and I tried to loosen up the lace. It was like to no avail. Like it wasn't going to happen. So I ran
While I'm
upstairs.
moaning and
He's moaning and groaning, my foot. And so I run upstairs. I'm like, well, we're just going to have to cut the shoelace. And so I grab scissors and I run. That's the first time I've ever ran with scissors ever in my life. I promise, Mom, if you're listening. Anyway, ran downstairs with the scissors and cut the shoelace. And there was relief. And you got out of your predicament.
Yes,
what-
I did.
But
And
what we
it-
thought about was, what if I wasn't there?
Oh.
What would you have done?
Tell me about it. This is what led us into
Terrible.
the conversation we're going to have with our listeners today
Yeah.
about what happens when you are in a predicament
Yes.
and you don't know what to do. How are you going to get out
How
of
to
it?
get out?
Yeah. And well,
I had
first
a
of all-
couple ideas. You're going to come up with the definition here of predicament.
yeah.
But a
yeah.
couple of things that we did think of,
Yeah.
or I did, was if I were not there, you
Mhm.
could have yelled out. I'm going to say it quietly so she doesn't hear. Hey Siri, or you could have yelled
Yeah.
out, Hey Alexa, or
Well,
whatever.
it only would have worked if
If-
the phone would have been, right
right.
side
But
up.
it's just a thought.
But I did, all the thoughts went through
Yeah.
my head about, okay,
You-
you cannot get out
you
of this.
stuck.
Your foot is locked in place on a
in
bike
pain.
and you can't get off the bike. And so I was thinking about like tipping over and
Crawling,
getting
with
into
the
a different
bike.
position. I mean, it was horrible. Reminded me of that guy of that movie that was about the guy who cut off his
No,
arm.
that's
Oh,
I'm gonna talk about that. I'm
It's
gonna talk
sorry.
about that.
Anyhow,
Yeah.
a predicament. You may not find yourself in that kind of a predicament, but there are all kinds of predicaments guaranteed
Yeah.
that we are going to find ourselves in. So let's just talk about a little bit what exactly is a predicament. And do you have the Webster definition there?
No, I
Oh,
do
okay.
not.
Okay. You could ask Siri for it right now, or you can Google
You
it.
gonna make her light up?
But I have Chat GPT, the AI
Yeah.
extraordinaire in front of me on the computer.
I think it's a bad idea.
I just typed it in. What's the
Okay.
definition of predicament? So a predicament is a difficult or challenging situation that presents a problem or dilemma. It often involves being forced to choose between two or more undesirable options, like cutting off my foot or, or facing a situation where there are no good, easy solutions. In other words, a predicament is a situation that poses a difficult challenge or problem and requires careful consideration and decision-making to resolve.
Right. And so how many of you listening have found yourself in a predicament? I would imagine there's been a handful or a couple handfuls of times, but there are
Yeah.
5 things that you can actually do that we're going to
Well-
talk about on this podcast. There's more than 5 things, but 5 things we want to talk
Yeah,
about.
we want to stress at least
Yeah.
5 things that we came up with that helps us get out of predicaments. But
Yeah.
there's every one of us who goes through a predicament of some kind. It could be in financial or relational or physical. I mean, the reality is you're finding yourself in a spot where you're not quite sure how to get out of.
Right. And
So,
sometimes they're self-inflicted
well, yeah, well, a
predicaments.
lot of the financial ones are, for example.
Right. Right. Yeah. So what are the 5 things that
Oh, I thought you were going to
what?
talk about different predicaments.
Oh,
Give some
we're gonna talk.
examples.
Oh, okay.
That's
I can do
okay.
that. So
Let's
yeah,
go
so
on.
no, let's do that. Let's talk about that
Well,
because
like if you're in a financial
if you're in a
situation.
financial situation,
Yeah.
like let's say, I don't know, you the end of the month and you're like, oh, I've got bills to pay, and you're like, oh, look, there's a goose egg in my account again. So how am I gonna pay the bills? So
Use the
you
golden goose egg if you need to.
so you find yourself in a predicament and you start moving money around. And anyway, you're just in this cycle unless you change things. You don't panic, right? And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. But as far as the financial situation, that may be an example,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think just there are a whole bunch of commonalities
Yeah.
that we experience in predicaments. Certainly
Yeah.
we run into predicaments in our relationships,
Yeah.
with our spouse or with our kids. And we end up feeling like there's just no answer to this. There's like no way out of trying to solve this problem or get through this predicament.
Yeah.
Like my kid is just not going to give up gaming, for example, and I don't know what to do about it. It's a predicament you feel helpless in.
Yeah.
Or with a spouse where you just feel like, look, I'm talking Chinese and she's talking Russian, and I know I'm right and she's wrong, and it just a predicament that can't seem to be can't seem to be resolved. But there are ways in which we can navigate our way through
Yeah.
and get to the other side of a
Yeah.
predicament.
That's right. And I was actually thinking about, like, when I'm working with my clients, and they'll say something about oh, I'm doing so great, but then, oh golly, as far as eating is concerned,
Yeah.
oh golly, I had a birthday party to go to, or I had to go out to eat with some friends, and so it kind of all went out the window and I have to get right back on track. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. There are ways that you can solve that
Yeah.
and not be
Yeah.
succumb to the temptation and the I guess, just the predicament of having to choose what's on the menu. You can get creative and ask for what you want.
Well, undoubtedly, you have been through your own predicaments or
Why
are
do you have
going
to
to, because it's not like one time and you're done for the
That's
rest of your life.
true.
How many predicaments are going to face you maybe today or next week or whatever?
And some of them may
But
be funny, like yours.
yeah.
And yet it
Oh, it
wasn't
could have been
funny.
horrid.
I know,
I mean,
but I think, God,
I
it
could be
wasn't.
sitting up here with, one less
You can
foot.
still be there.
So I just ask the listeners, just take a moment right now and just evaluate, are you in a predicament right now in some area of life where you feel like this is a situation I'm not happy about it. In fact, I'm even a little embarrassed about it. I'm really completely confused and I
Yeah.
really don't know where and how I'm going to get out of this thing.
Yeah.
So
So
take
what
a
do you
moment
do?
and reflect on that. And then let's just talk together about what are the kinds of things we could do to get out of that predicament.
Yeah.
And I think the first one
Is don't panic.
Yeah.
Like, you panicked. I'm just going to say.
I-
You did panic.
okay,
'Cause-
so one of the ways we came up with these five
Is
is because I didn't do any of them. Like I really didn't. I went into panic mode. Like
You're like
get me out of this.
hyperventilating.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So the first thing I could have and should have done, and what I'm suggesting to you, is just take a breath
Right.
or two or three, whatever it
Yeah.
takes to
Get
just
perspective.
slow yourself down.
Yeah.
Don't panic. Get some perspective. Yes, it's a predicament for now. It seems irresolvable, but that's not true.
Right.
So get your perspective that while this is a predicament, it's not going to kill me.
Right.
I can find my way out.
Unlike how someone might have seen the situation with Daniel in the lion's den, they might have seen, oh no, this could kill him.
You're going to a Bible character
I
now.
am.
I think that's
because-
great.
Is that good?
We could sit here the rest of the time
and just
talking about
Bible characters.
nothing but predicaments that Bible characters
Well,
got to do.
that's for real.
All right.
Helps
So
us.
talk to us about Daniel.
Well, I mean, an outsider looking in would have said, "Oof, he's a goner. That's some
What,
predicament."
they threw him in the lion's den?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Yeah. Well,
He didn't panic.
he didn't. Well, I don't think he did. I think he prayed, and he knew the God would get him through. So
He got
he
perspective
had
on
perspective.
who God is and what God could
Could
do
do.
should God choose to do it.
Yeah.
But he went in there seemingly with courage and resolve
And
that
God
whatever would
confidence.
happen.
Yeah.
And he would trust in God.
Yeah. So he had great perspective. I mean,
So
I
I
did
didn't
a little
like-
bit of
like,
that.
I didn't even have time to think about those kinds of things while I'm on the bike. My foot's in pain. I'm all wrapped around the pedal. I'm not thinking, breathe
Just
deep, get
imagine if there were
perspective.
lions
Don't
in the
panic.
room.
Man, seriously, I don't know. I
I
couldn't
don't.
handle it like Daniel.
No, no, no.
Why not?
He's my hero.
All right.
Yeah, I need to learn
So
him
what's
from
another thing?
being.
So don't panic. Take a deep breath. Get some perspective. What
Yeah.
else?
The
Number
second
two.
thing to do is to pray. Like,
Duh.
duh,
I mean,
talk to
seriously.
God and
Yeah.
ask Him for wisdom in the situation. Like, okay,
Mhm.
Lord, I need your help in this
Yeah.
situation. What would you have me do?
I kind
Right?
of prayed.
Did you?
Oh God, pray. Look, there's nothing wrong. Listen, there's nothing wrong with that kind of a prayer either, because sometimes
Well, that's true.
it's going to be a quick shout out prayer. God help me.
Right, right.
But more seriously, if because it's a predicament, they're not always quick little deals like I experienced. But you're in a predicament where it just seems like it just keeps going on and on. And we've got so much encouragement from God's word where he invites us to talk with him about the problem, about the predicament.
And
And
gives us wisdom in
yeah,
order to
yeah, God, I need your
figure it
wisdom
out.
to know
Yeah.
how do you want me to get out of
So
this?
why didn't you
Right.
use
I didn't
God's
have
wisdom?
time. I was, I was feeling like my foot was going to, the blood was being cut off. And then next it would be going up to my heart and I die of a heart attack.
You know, it's just we're just having fun with you. I mean, you would
Easy
have
for you to say. What would you have done in that situation?
probably the same thing. You
But I mean,
know,
if you weren't here, I don't know what, I mean, seriously, I just keep thinking, what would you have done? What would you have done? It was a predicament. I certainly would have
Jesus
been
did.
praying.
Right. He would
What
pray.
would Jesus do? Don't do that. He wouldn't have been
That's
on
right.
a stationary bike.
He might have in this day and age, right? Like that's
All right. But we do need
Yes.
wisdom that comes from above. And James writes in the Bible a great letter, and he talks about seeking God's wisdom.
Yep.
If any one of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives generously to all and without reproach. So we have this invitation from God to talk with him, and he literally promises to give us his wisdom.
Yeah.
And man, what an encouragement that needs to be in the middle of our predicament. If we could decide not to panic, get some perspective, and then number two, let's talk to God about it and just literally ask God, I need your wisdom, and believe that God will graciously, generously, gladly give us wisdom.
Right. And you know who in the Bible was in a serious predicament and needed wisdom? Solomon. And he asked for wisdom and he
did.
had God's wisdom.
You're talking about the incident where
He had several
decision. He had
instances
to make
in the
a
Bible,
ruling.
but
Yeah.
yes,
He
this
had to
one,
make a ruling on something. So what I love about
Sure, buddy.
Solomon is that, God said, you ask whatever you want. And he said, I just want wisdom. I don't care about anything else. Just give me your wisdom. And God honored that. So there's a situation where two moms approach him, and both of them each had infants at the same time. One of the infants died. The other mother stole the live
baby.
infant and claimed it was hers. So both of them appear before King Solomon for a ruling on this. Like,
both
who
saying
gets the
it's
kid?
their child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Solomon says, all right, probably under his breath, God, thank you for your wisdom. All right, get a sword, somebody. We're going to cut the kid in half and you each get half.
No.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So the real mom,
Yeah.
like cried out, and that was wisdom on his part. He knew who the baby belonged to.
So she was ordered the child. But yeah, there's something about wisdom. You can get it in a moment. You can get it over a period of time, but God graciously, generously will give you wisdom. All right. What's number three?
Yeah.
Another third thing we could do to get out of this predicament.
But real quick, going back to that,
Yeah.
Solomon asked. So you have to ask.
Just don't make the assumption that, is that what you mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Ask for his wisdom.
Okay.
So number 3, be solution minded. Yeah. So
By the way, my dad was famous at that. He just ingrained in us kids, look, there's not a problem that doesn't have a solution.
Use your common sense.
And that's the second line. So son, use your common sense.
Right.
And that navigated me out of a lot of hairy situations.
Right. And so we actually were solution minded. I mean, it happened really quickly. But we cut
well, I was just glad
shoestring.
that, because here's what's ironic. It wasn't too long before, a few days before that, for whatever reason, we were talking about that documentary.
Oh yeah.
With the guy
127 hours, which the guy in Utah, he was the mountain climber. He was kind of a cocky kind of mountain climber. Like he went on his own. I don't need to be with anybody, whatever. But a boulder fell and crushed his arm, or crushed him. And it was on his arm, and he was left there for 127 hours. Trapped
in this little tiny spot between two cliff walls.
I remember watching that movie. It was just, I couldn't stop watching it, and I couldn't figure out why.
So what did he do?
He cut his arm off.
Cut his arm off.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
But that's solution minded.
Well, that went through my
that
head.
or
You came
die.
running down with the scissors. I'm thinking, oh, she knows this, the shoelace, not my foot.
I cut the leg off.
All right.
Right,
So
right,
there
right, right.
is a solution,
Mhm.
but sometimes it takes a tremendous amount of creativity,
Yeah.
courage to get after a solution.
And it might be painful.
And yeah,
I mean, it was either he
right.
went through that kind of pain
Yeah.
or death.
Yeah.
So what are you willing to put yourself through?
But encourage yourself that
Yeah. There
there
is a
is
way.
going to be a solution for this.
Yeah.
You've already decided you're going to gain perspective, and then you're going to get God's wisdom, and then you're going to put in the reps, so to speak. You're going to
Yeah.
do the hard work to dig out what the answers are, the potential answers for this solving this problem. Sometimes they're really complicated and they take a long time. That's okay. Other times they're pretty quick and they come amazingly, surprisingly, effectively quick.
Yeah. Like with Elisha in the Bible.
Back to the
And
Bible we go.
back to the Bible we go,
Excellent
because
place to
this
go.
was a quick,
Yeah.
solution that that he had in mind.
Let me
And
back up a
quick.
second. I seriously,
You love him.
Elisha,
Yeah.
not Elijah. Elisha was the protege of Elijah.
Right.
He's absolutely one of my favorite Bible characters of all time. And here's why. He would oftentimes use common sense in his natural ability to solve problems.
And supernatural faith, because a lot of the things that he
Yeah.
did was like,
Well, but no, there were
massive faith.
times when naturally,
Yeah.
with his common sense, he couldn't get the thing done. Supernaturally, he would call upon God's power.
Right.
It wasn't the reverse, though. He didn't start, I'm going to call God's supernatural power down and fix the problem. He went
He did
with,
what he could do.
yeah,
Yeah.
with his
That's a good word.
in his own humanity. And I think this is sometimes something we overlook. We want the quick fix. God, just fix this. And God wants us to put in the effort to try
That's
to fix
good.
it first.
Yeah.
So what happened with Elisha? He had so many different instances, but what was
Yeah.
this one?
Well, the one that comes to mind is the one where there's a pot of stew.
Yeah.
And
Oh, he
it
came
was
back from a trip. He was hungry. He said, make some stew, guys.
and they, I guess, it had gourds and all kinds of things in it. And the guy
Mushrooms, probably poison mushrooms.
probably poison mushrooms. But anyway, they ate it and they're like, oh, this is toxic. It's poisonous. And so Elijah's like, I got this, guys, no problem.
Yeah.
And he just threw in some flour and guys, it's good to go. Seriously? That
Just-
takes a lot of faith
I-
to go eating that just after throwing a little dash of flour.
Yeah.
Ah,
but
it's good, guys.
You know, he
But-
knew he had,
Yeah, he knew.
he had an answer, a solution
Right.
that the other guys were overlooking,
Mhm.
either because they just
Didn't
didn't
know.
know that flour would, sort of depoison it.
Yeah.
But that's a great example. There were others, where the axe head fell into the water and
Oh,
he threw in a
right.
log and it popped up to
Popped
the
up.
top, things like that.
That's pretty cool.
And then there's some supernatural ones. We'll save
Yeah.
that for another
But
episode.
that's it. He was being solution minded and he just went after the problem and got it done, got
Yeah.
it fixed.
Yeah.
So the
Right.
fourth thing that you can do is what Todd did was cry out for help. But
Yeah.
be discerning, right? Who you're crying out to help.
Yeah. Well,
you know, because-
first of all, look, I called out for help once I realized that
You couldn't do it on
I
your own.
couldn't solve
Yeah,
this
yeah,
on
yeah.
my own.
Right.
Okay. Because guys, especially, and I'm sure it's true for women too, but we've got a big enough ego and a lot of pride where we really think we got this thing. I can fix this thing. And
Well,
the
it's
reality
just a
is,
shoelace around a pedal. Like,
Yeah,
of
but-
course you could get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was so wrapped around, like there's no way that.
Well,
that
I'm
was
just thinking
coming.
about all the different predicaments we
Yeah.
find ourselves in. And the temptation is not to ask for help because we're
Oh,
either
then you stay
embarrassed
in it.
or we're insecure or
Yeah.
we're angry,
Mhm.
we're frustrated. We just got this pride ego thing going where we don't ask for help.
Yeah, just pull over and ask for directions already.
Exactly. The predicament is you're lost and
Yeah.
someone could help you
Right.
find your
right.
way.
So why
So-
stay stuck for longer than you need to be?
Yeah. So ask for help. I know that might seem like a, well, duh, but then I guess the question is, well, how come you haven't before? And the predicament has been, extended
Yeah.
simply because you didn't ask for help.
And so again, going back to, and not to cut you off, Todd, but
Yeah.
going back to whether it's financial or something relational, or maybe it's with your health. I mean, why stay stuck in a
Yeah.
situation if you really don't know how to get out of it, or you need the accountability, or you need just the counsel or whatever it is?
Yeah.
We're all in this together and none of us have it all figured out. So
Yeah. I just want to suggest too, when
Mhm.
asking for help,
Yeah.
I mean, again, I know there's lots of answers on Google and now with chat AI. I mean, and seriously, there is a lot
Yeah.
there, but
that's not
There-
even going to be accurate all the time.
No,
right?
it's
And
not.
neither is
That's true.
Google. So
and in my mind, we miss out on something really special when we ask others I mean, I'm talking about humans
Yeah.
who've been in a predicament
Yeah.
asking for their help. I mean, it's certainly a blessing for them. And there's a way that we just were able to engage in our humanity together to
Mhm.
get problems solved and fixed. And people
Right.
like, I mean, I found this to be true in Minnesota in snowstorms. When someone's stuck, they don't mind asking for help. And those who are being asked love to respond. There's
Yeah.
just there's a feel good, heroic thing that rises to the surface when you're
For
asked for
sure.
help or you can give help.
Yeah, it's a give and take kind of a thing,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful, and I think that that's what community is all about, and that's the way God has wired us.
All right. So the
So
first four things. One,
first, okay, the first one is don't panic, take a deep breath, get
get
some
perspective.
perspective. Yep.
Number two,
Number two is pray.
ask God's wisdom.
Yes, yes, yes.
Number
Number
three.
three, be solution minded.
Yeah. Get after it. Put in the reps.
Yeah.
Number four,
cry out for help if you need to.
don't go it alone.
Yep, yep. And number five, persevere until you're certain God told you, until you're certain that God told you not to persevere any longer, right? Like
Yeah.
just keep at it, because you might be really close to the solution,
Right.
or that person that's helping you may be really close to that breakthrough. So just keep pressing in.
Yeah. I think how many times, like I've just had it, like the breakthrough's not going to come. This predicament it's just what it is. And I've just got to get accustomed to it
Can I give an example?
yeah.
Okay.
But not if it's me.
It is you again.
Oh,
I'm
man,
sorry.
come on.
But you talk a lot about life maintenance.
What is life maintenance?
It drives you nuts.
What is it?
Just all the things, whether it's fixing this or calling that. I mean, just life maintenance, paying a bill, whatever it is,
Keeping
up
stuff
with
running,
life.
keeping going.
And yet everyone has to do life maintenance.
Yeah.
Right.
To varying degrees.
Right. Right. We all have life maintenance.
So what's your point in this? I mean, you're just busting me in front of everybody that, oh, he
Cool.
spends too much time on life maintenance.
We all
Okay,
have a lot of life maintenance.
yeah.
So we all have to persevere. And
Oh, I see.
we're at number 5, persevering.
Right. Keep pushing through. There's a breakthrough
There is a breakthrough.
awaiting you.
That's right.
If
right.
you don't give up,
Right.
if you will persevere. And I'm surprised that we didn't ask, there's so many great verses in the Bible about persevering. I'm just going to don't take this out of context, but Jesus said, those who persevere to the end will be saved. And I take that to mean, look, don't ever give up your faith. Don't ever lose hope. No matter what the circumstances look like around you, no matter how bad the predicament seems, Jesus says, persevere to the very end. Stay faithful to him. Keep trusting him. And I sort of take that as my anchoring strategy for keeping on. Jesus said, persevere to the end. You'll be saved.
That's so good. I love that. I even think about when, because you mentioned obviously with your faith, just maybe you're in a predicament with being someone of faith in the workplace. And maybe there's something that's not going on that's kosher, right? Like it's just not settling well with you. And how do you rise up and speak truth? How do you handle it? Right.
Yeah.
You might have to leave the job if it's something that doesn't sit well with you. I mean, I don't know, but that might be happening. But there's always a solution. Like I said, you might need to leave. You might need to go and have that bold courage and speak your truth, and maybe things will change. But yeah, perseverance.
I think these 5 steps are extraordinarily practical and very helpful. And I wished I would have had them before I got wrapped up in the bike pedal, because I might have handled it a little bit differently and not been so stressed out.
Pull out your notes, not your nose, but your notes, and said,
Right.
okay, wait, don't panic.
No, they get in your head. Listen, here's the reality. Predicaments, they're just going to be here. They're just part of life, and they're a real challenge for us. And I think the 6th thing, if we can throw in a bonus here,
Sure, bonus,
is that what you want to do after you've experienced the breakthrough or the solution to your predicament is to learn something of value.
right?
Now,
right.
I really
And
truly
celebrate
did.
that you got maybe out of that predicament.
Yeah. Oh, I celebrated big time, but I also learned a lesson.
Yeah.
And the lesson was real simple.
I did too.
I noticed my shoelace was untied while I was pedaling.
Oh, see, I did not know this.
I know you didn't.
Okay.
And I glanced down at it.
Interesting.
But I was on a pretty good roll, and I thought, it's fine. I mean, what could happen, right? I went through my head, like, what could happen? It's a loose shoelace, and I'm not going to trip over it, and just keep pedaling because I was on a roll. And then that's when all of a sudden it hit me. So I learned a lesson.
Sense, Todd.
Tie your shoes, people. Don't trip over things.
Okay, that's funny.
All right. So there you go. There's the bonus. Learn from the lesson.
Right,
Be,
so you
be
don't do that.
grateful, celebrate, thank God, because another predicament guaranteed is on its way.
Yes, awesome.
You'll be better equipped to handle it.
That's right. Well, we really appreciate you. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Your Biggest Breakthrough. If this helped you in any way and you can think of someone in your space that it could help and encourage, send it along, share it to others, and give
Yeah,
a
please.
rating and a review.
And if I,
A 5-star
how do
rating.
you do that, by the way?
Okay, yeah. So I
Somebody
actually
asked the
just
other day.
yeah, it
like,
was-
okay, I want to.
it was your sister.
Yes, it
actually.
was.
So I actually I did a video for it. So maybe I need to do that
Yeah.
somehow for our followers to know how to do it. But it's really simple. If you just go, like for instance, if it's Apple, if you scroll all the way down, you'll see at the bottom that there's 5 stars there, and you just hit the 5th star. What is my thing with talking?
No, that's
today?
fine. The
I'm like,
5th star.
Store
We
star.
got it. Yeah. All right. Then what?
Anyway, then it'll say right underneath there, write a review. So click on that, and then you just
One sentence.
one
That's all you
sentence.
need.
Yeah. We would really, really appreciate it. And it would help take this podcast up to the top as far as however algorithms work and all that. So
Yeah.
if you could do that, we appreciate
Others
it.
could find out about
Yes,
it. That would
yes.
be really good.
So awesome. Make it a great day and persevere through those predicaments. Take care. We'll catch you next time. Head on over to yourbiggestbreakthrough.com where you'll find some free resources and information and a place where you can comment, and we would love to dialogue with you there. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.